Okay, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Olabi Adenio, as usual, and I welcome you to today's session of the LCS. And I apologize for taking this long to start. It was an unavoidable circumstance. And today, as I stated in the last coding session, we'll be taking the part two where we um, use the Azure DevOps platform to spin up a website that is also using the Microsoft Azure app service basically. So without saying too much, let me just go into the details, and I'm going to be starting from the very top. So the first thing I'll be doing is, this is the Azure DevOps platform. You can come here by saying dev.azure.com. So once you click on dev.azure.com, so this is the Azure DevOps home screen. So I intentionally signed out, so I will sign in and show you guys something. So in the process of doing this, I don't know if any of you guys have tried to work with it. I mean, like, practice with what we have in your exercises. But if you had tried to practice, you might have had issue where you don't see a subscription on your account. So this is due to an inbuilt feature of Azure DevOps. When you log in on Azure DevOps, it signs you in into a Microsoft directory, basically. So that Microsoft directory makes you as if you are a tenant in your Azure platform, in the sense that so let me just get the code to verify my identity here. So it makes you a tenant in, so this is 686693963, sorry. So it makes you a tenant in your directory, in the sense that it's viewing you as if you are coming from an external source. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. It's just like on your how do I say it now? On your, so now let me, it signs you into your stuff first. So let me now go, because when you sign in, it takes you to the portal before you now have to navigate back to Azure DevOps. So you can just visualize it as, on your laptop you have many users. So you might have a user on your laptop that is the admin user, and there's a user account that is also called the guest user. So if you remember last time, this was where we worked with last time, where we said the CICD LCS, and I was saying we'll be working with this project. But when I was working offline, like preparing for this session, I realized that I won't be able to work with this session. Why? Because everything I'm trying to do in this directory, since I'm being seen as a tenant, I cannot access my subscription that I have on my Microsoft Azure. So if I cannot access the subscription I have on Microsoft Azure, then I cannot do anything here. Why? Because you need subscription for Microsoft Azure to be able to use the app services and to be able to deploy your apps basically. So to do that, the best way to do that is when you come here. So you can see that I'm in my Microsoft account. I'm in the Microsoft account directory. So I have to switch directory now to a directory that is contained on my a directory that is contained on my Azure platform. So this a directory called the default directory is the directory of my Azure platform, and I will show that to you now. If I come here, okay, let me switch the screen that I'm sharing. Let me share another tab. Okay, stop share. So I'm not using the app. I'm using the web browser, so it's getting. Probably I should just share the entire window. So um I think so. Anytime I navigate, so you guys can see it. So I'm sharing this window. I hope you guys can see my window now. So if I come here to my Azure, Microsoft Azure, and and I go to my Active Directory. If on my Active Directory, you can see. So now, if I come here, you can see few things have changed. Number one, my username has changed. It's now Oadenio82. And if I come here, you can see that I'm now in the what? I'm now in the current. I'm now in a directory. Okay, but the directory I'm in currently is the what? Is the default directory for this account. So when you switch directory, that is when you are able to access. If I come here and click on Active Directory, you see the default directory exactly. So the Active Directory on my Microsoft Azure is the default directory. So if you don't switch directories, you'll be seen as a tenant in your Azure platform, and then you won't be able to do most of those actions. Why? Because all of your Azure subscriptions will not be what? Will not be recognized. So coming back here now, so to just start the whole process again from the beginning. So basically what we're going to be doing is um I have a website already of sort, not a website, but an app. I told you it is an app that was once created. So I'll just navigate to the app here. So this was when I deployed the app using another platform. So I'll just navigate to the app for you to see what the app does. So the app is like a password generator. So it is a Flask app that was built with Python. And what it does is that when you type in the name of any website, say Google, and you click on generate, it generate a password for that website. Basically it was just a basic project just to showcase some functionality of stuff and all. So you can also keep type in Google here and type get to tell you that the generated password. So if I come here and say okay, Twitter, and I click on generate, a new password for Twitter is generated. So let's say I generate one for ITEL, generate. So if I want to get the password that's generated for Twitter, I just come and put in Twitter and type in get, and this was the password that was generated. So this app has been built. I don't know if but most of my previous coding sessions have talked about using Flask extensively, and probably we might still do something related, but I doubt I won't have the time to go into the details of what the app, the back end of the app, but this is basically what the app does. So what I want to do now is, rather than deploying this from a third party website, we want to be able to deploy this using what Azure DevOps and Microsoft Azure, in the sense that you now have a pipeline where you can configure automatic continuous deployment, where any changes that is made to your code base on GitHub, once you merge that change on GitHub, it is Azure DevOps is immediately notified, and then a new what deployment channel is started, where those changes that you have merged are what deployed automatically. So this is the basic stuff that I'm going to be doing. So to do that, let me just create a new project. So another thing that we should know is that for Azure DevOps, it is not, creating a pipeline is not free. LCS code. So creating a pipeline is not free. So for me to be able to do this, for me to be able to perform this LCS, I had to like request for um unit of parallel running, because like I don't know, when we were talking about actions, don't know, I think I was talking about actions in the last LCS. When you are talking about Git actions, you know that they have to be a runner. So the runner is like, if you remember correctly, is basically the OS on which that stuff is running. So there has to be like an equivalent term of runner in your what, in your Azure DevOps pipeline, where that runner, so those runners are not free on Azure DevOps, but you can request, anybody can request if you have a private repository. But for public repository, they don't accept requests, because they believe public repository should fund it, or they will tell you that if it's an open source project. But if you are using a private repository, you can always request for free runs, and I think they give 1,800 minutes or thereabouts. So if you want to do that, there's a form to fill online. You can just, I can share the form later for people that want to test and also what I'm going to do is that we're going to be creating a pipeline. So you can try to go creating, let me just go this method, because you could have created, there's something called Azure Service Manager. So Azure Service Manager is what links what your Azure DevOps to what, to the directory, because in your Azure you can have different directory for different tasks. So you might have a directory that you want to use for web apps, another directory that you want to use for Kubernetes and stuff like that. So you have an Azure Service Manager that says that, okay, for this pipeline, I want you to use this particular what service, or this particular subscription, or this particular directory. So we could have done that from project setting, but I want us to see the way it will be if we don't configure something like that before we then go on to configure it. So as usual, the first thing I selected here was that our repository is hosted on GitHub. So your repository might not be hosted on GitHub. Your repository might be hosted on Git, on GitLab, or anything that just uses what Git as the file versioning system. So you just choose, but as my code is on GitHub, so that's what I'll be selecting. So I have linked, if this is the first time you are doing this, there will be a place where they will tell you to log into your GitHub, where you authorize what your Azure DevOps to have access to your repositories on GitHub. But because I've done it before, I don't have to reauthorize, and I can see all of my repositories. So the name of the repository that the app is in is called password generator. I can just, that was the GitHub page that was on. I can just show you the GitHub repo. So this is the repository, and these are the files that are contained. So the static files, the index.py file, this and that, different kind of things like that. So that is it. So once you select that, you see it is telling me that the repository I selected is, this is just them, because they don't actually want us to use their runners for public projects, but they won't stop it from running. But basically they were expecting that I also selected a private repository for a private project. So all of these things that are provided here, you don't have to edit anything. So I would have loved to like I'd have loved to like do a one stuff of like taking you through everything that is here. But what I will do is that I will send a link, take all of this in detail and explain what is there. So I have to like breeze through this a bit, so I'll be able to complete this successfully. But basically, this should not look unfamiliar to you, because we have dealt with actions and PyTest in the last stuff. So this is basically everything that is here is just a YAML file that is basically an action file. It's just that the action file is now not hosted on GitHub, but rather it is hosted on what? Your Azure DevOps pipeline. So the place I want us to focus on is this part here. So for when you want to deploy using Microsoft Azure to wherever it is that you want to deploy, um, you have to select where it is that you want to deploy. So you can see that we have a key called deployment method. So this deployment method can be different. It can be there are different keys that you can use, but this is the recommended deployment method by Microsoft. What they recommend us to do is that we have a bundle of all of the old code. You can see everything that is here is just bundled into a zip file, and then when it is extracted the Azure on the Microsoft service, the app service platform that we're going to be using, then it is what extracted. So we have all of those files intact. There are other ways to do it where there's like a direct upload and stuff like that, but I won't be going into all of those today. You can see all of those options somewhere later. And then the next thing we have to do is to what? To provide the startup command. So this is something that is just like for people that have been working with Flask, and it's something that is known. G Unicorn is the name of the server. We are binding it to a particular port. Workers just means the number of available concurrent services that can log into our app concurrently. And index.app. Normally, this should not have been included, because there's a standard for creating Flask files. And for creating Flask files, the name of the app is also app.py or main.py. But because in my own code, you can see that the first thing I have here, the index file is called index.py. So I have to specify here that what is going to be the entrance to my code is going to be what? The index.py file. So doing that, I'm just going to confirm all of this. I will actually send a link where you can see a lot more of coding, a lot more of live coding that you can even practicalize yourself and just work with. But this is just the only two things that are not what that are not normal in this place, in the sense that they can be what's changed. But every other things are provided by Azure themselves. They can be edited, yes, but this is basically what they are used for. So after that, we just what we save this pipeline, and then we are going to select to run the pipeline. So since this pipeline has been saved, okay, password generator. So now let me what decide to run the pipeline. So if I'm going to run the pipeline, I'm just going to select the main because we made our trigger the main, and we don't need to specify anything yet. All this can be done. The last commit will just be chosen automatically. So I'll just run the pipeline, and we'll start seeing basically a representation. You see, this pipeline is not valid. Job deployment job set step exactly. So we don't have a connection to this. So this is why we're having an error, because remember I told you guys then that we have to like connect this stuff. We have to connect this pipeline to to a particular app service. So I'm going to come here to the project settings, and then I'm going to create a new service, this service connections, a new service connection, and I'll choose the Azure Resource Manager. So it will be an automatic one. And so normally, if you had not switched directly, you will not be able to access what this directory here. So the reason why I'm able to see this subscription that I have is because I had switched the directory in the first place. So I'm going to select the LCS Winter Resource Group and the service connection name. All this can be left. So this I'll grant permission to all pipelines. So the service connection name is demo, and then let me save this. Okay, so now I'm going to come back here to the pipeline. Okay, and let me try to rerun this now. Mhm. Okay, so this is it taking me to the. I want us to see where the code will be run and where the jobs are being run. Okay, manually triggered. And why is it failing? Authorize resources. Okay, let me use this exactly. So I have to what select the fact that it is what authorized, and now that I've authorized it, let me rerun this now. Okay, this is still failing. Okay, let me just start the whole process. I think the issue was password generator. Exactly. So I think this is where I had an issue. So I did not configure the fact that I wanted to move the app towards a web app on Azure. So yes, I should have selected that I want to use my Azure subscription, and then it will show me a web app. So what's the web app name? So this web app, if I come here and click on home and come to my app services, you can see that I have a web app that has been created previously. So the process of creating the web app is just coming to Azure, clicking on app services, and just creating a new web app. So if I just create a new web app, but I'm not going to use the web app. I'm just trying to show you guys the process for which you create it. Normally, when you are going through the stuff, they prefer when you create the web app with the what they prefer when you create the web app with the command line. But we'll go through all of this in a later stage where we'll go through app service in detail and how it can be used and the manual creation. But I'll just go with my already created web app and I will validate and configure. So if these configurations run through successfully, then we should have a pipeline. So the reason why the previous pipeline was not running is because there's no resource that what I'm trying to upload into. So all of this you can see now that this is what the previous stuff that I had there is not here. So I have to add them here manually. Control Z. So I think deployment method is what zip deploy. So these are the different options you have for. I'm going with zip deploy, and then the startup. No, 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 I don't want it. So the startup command. So startup command exactly is do I remember this of it? Okay, I know I'm going to let me just come here. Let me open this in another tab to pick up the startup command from the previous pipeline. So I'm just going to come to this one here. So let me see. I should be able to view the pipeline. yes, authorize. So if I come here, down here, just to pick up this last line, okay. So I'm just going to Control C, come here and do a Control V. Okay, and now I'm going to save it and what I'm going to run it. So I'm just going to commit it directly into the main branch, save and run, and then with our configurations in place now, we should have a job that's what runs where we see, you see. So now this is different. So we don't have an error from the start. Why? So the reason why we had that error for the previous pipeline was because that pipeline was not configured properly. I did not say that I was going to what I'm using that pipeline to upload to a what an app service. So you can see now this is basically just like a repeat of the action that we have worked in. So you see that this is the job, and the job has what different stages, a stage and a job, and the job has what different steps. So this is the Python.7. So this is it installing the requirement from the requirements file. So this is it uploading the package. So what it does is after it archives the file, because we chose a zip deploy, it's going to do what? It's going to archive everything and zip. So after adding all of them, it's just going to zip everything and bundle it into a what? Into a file. So after bundling everything into a file, it comes here and it does what? It uploads that zip file that was bundled, and then it just what check out back of the what of the repository. So the reason why I'm bringing all of this, because I know you guys should be familiar with all of these terms, and there are things that we spoke about in our last class. So it's going to what finalize the job, and that's all. So after this job has been completed successfully, what's the next thing? We now need to go to the next what? The next job, which is the what? The job that does the what? The deployment. So here now you see that this job is pending. Why? Because it needs access to a what? A resource. So the resource manager that I created before. So now I'm going to permit it to what? To use that resource manager. And now that I've granted you the permission to use that resource manager, it's going to what? Permit you to what? Hello guys, sorry for the break in transmission, but unfortunately I won't be able to share my screen anymore because my laptop is dead, unfortunately, and there's a power outage where I am right now. So um there's no way for me to continue. So that's why I was even trying to like breeze through all of the resources and all. But what I'll do is immediately the power is restored, I'm going to complete. I'm just going to show. I'm going to provide a link to the materials that you will need to recreate what I have just done, because we have actually freed the stage, and I'll provide a link to the web app that was deployed using the Microsoft App Service. So I will deploy that, and I will also, if you are not too congested, I can give us a mini task where I'll provide the link to a GitHub page where we pick up a sample Flask, I think a Flask hello program. I think there's another Flask program that we have that is a random code generator. So what that one does is that every time the page is refreshed, a new code is generated every time a code is refreshed. So I can give that to us as a tag along task for us to just solidify on the concepts that we try to pass across in this live coding session. So as usual, if there are any questions that you guys want to ask me or anything based on this, also just drop them on Slack. I'll be on hand to answer them. So I'm very sorry for the incomplete live coding session, but with that, we have come to the end of today's live coding session, and see you guys again on Thursday for the first live coding session for the next stage. Thank you very much.